You are good to go, Mayor Ortiz.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome everybody to our City Council meeting for June 6, 2022, D-Day. And with that, we will move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. And you know what? I did not have anybody lined up to do it. Mr. City Attorney, would you mind leading us in the pledge?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Please stand if you're able and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. I appreciate you doing it on a short notice. And Madam City Clerk, if we could have the roll call.
Councilmember O'Brien.
Present.
Councilmember Beach.
Here.
Councilmember Colson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Brownrigg.
Here.
Mayor Ortiz.
Here. Thank you. And we did not have a closed session, but I do have some upcoming events. I received it from our Parks and Rec director that she wants me to remind everybody that on June 15th at 3:30 in the afternoon, we have the much anticipated ribbon cutting for the grand opening of the community center. So again, Wednesday, June 15th at 3:30, that's going to be a great day. Also on Friday, July 17th, we have Music in the Park. The series continues with Careless Whisper taking the stage from 6 to 8. In addition, there will be a community center open house at the same night from 5 to 7 in conjunction with the concert. Summer camps start the week of June 20th, and there's still time to sign up. Now, unfortunately, for abundance of caution, the Welcome Senior Lunch scheduled for Friday, June 17th will be postponed due to COVID transmission concerns. It's in an enclosed room with lots of participants, so we will that one will be rescheduled. Colleagues, anybody have any upcoming events they'd like to share? And I don't know if Madam City Manager, please.
Thank you. There is a shred event on June 25th. Information about that is in the electronic newsletter that comes out every Thursday. Thank you.
Where is it going to be?
I believe it's in Lot O, which is the train station lot by the Burlingame Avenue train station.
Okay. And Megan, I know what you're raising your hand for, so I will call you in a second. Councilmember Colson.
Okay. I think it's June 11th, this Saturday, am I right? That the March for Our Lives local chapter is going to have a rally around that. And I think you can find out more information on their website. I think the mayor and Councilwoman Beach are attending. I'm out of town, but just wanted to mention it in case anybody's listening. Do you know what time it starts?
It's at 10 a.m., I think.
10 o'clock. Yeah. What I was trying to remember is where the location is. If it starts.
I think it starts at City Hall and then they walk and come back to City Hall.
Yeah, and it ends again at City Hall. Yeah, so yeah, 10 o'clock Saturday. Thank you, Councilmember Colson, for that.
Sorry to miss.
Could there be something going on tomorrow? Could there be an election going on tomorrow? Last day to drop off your vote at City Hall, and we have a drive up. So, Madam City Clerk, if you could share with us.
Yeah, so tomorrow's the last day of the election. Remember, here in San Mateo County, you can use any one of our voting centers. So if you work in Redwood City, you can drop off your ballot during your lunch break over there or vote over there, whatnot. But here at City Hall, we'll also have a drive up. So if you come up the Primrose side, like you're going to Burlingame Ave, there will be a drive-through, and all day it'll be staffed by different city staff members who will be helping to take your ballot and put it in the ballot box for you. So stop by, make sure you get your ballot in.
And people could still drop it off at our other ballot box, which is on Broadway, correct?
Yep, we have one at Broadway in front of Walgreens.
Very good. So thank you for that. Colleagues, anybody else have any announcements? With that, then we will move on to presentations. So we will move on to proclamation recognizing June as Pride Month. And I believe is that, Madam City Manager, is that you presenting that one?
I think we will ask our HR Director, Sonia Morrison, to do it. She worked on the proclamation.
Perfect.
Sonia, are you with us?
And if
I am. I wasn't prepared. Now I've got to find the proclamation.
No, no, no,
There
no
was
problem,
I.
no problem. No, so what I'll do is I will just read the proclamation, and then I'll let my colleagues make any comments that they wish to do. So, a proclamation recognizing June as Pride Month. Whereas the City Council of Burlingame recognizes and proclaims the month of June 2022 as a lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and other LGBTQ plus Pride Month throughout the city. And whereas all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights, and LGBTQ plus individuals have had an immense impact on the cultural, civic, and economic success of our country. And whereas Burlingame is committed to supporting visibility, dignity, and equality for LGBTQ plus people in our diverse community, and whereas while society at large increasingly supports LGBTQ plus equality, it is essential to acknowledge that the need for education and awareness remains vital to end discrimination and prejudice. And whereas this nation was founded on the principle that every individual has infinite dignity and worth, and the Burlingame City Council calls upon the people of the city to embrace this principle and work to eliminate prejudice everywhere it exists. And whereas celebrating Pride Month influences awareness and provides support and advocacy for the San Mateo County's LGBTQ plus community, and it is an opportunity to take action and engage in dialogue to strengthen alliances, build acceptance, and advance equal rights. Now, therefore, I, Ricardo Ortiz, Mayor of the City of Burlingame, do hereby recognize June 2022 as Pride Month in support of the LGBTQ plus community. Thank you. Colleagues, anyone who wants any words to add to the proclamation? Okay, so with that, I thank you very much, and we will move on to public comment. So this is comment for items that are not in the agenda. If you wish to comment on items that are on the agenda, we'll wait till that item comes up and you can comment after that. So with that, we'll open it, Madam City Clerk, to any members of the public who wish to have any comment.
Yeah, we received an email from Christina Perez. She says, thank you for recognizing Pride Month again this year. Visibility is so important, and our county has worked hard at being a welcoming and inclusive place to live, work, and play. I appreciate your efforts to make the city and our county an affirming place for all LGBTQ folks, but especially youth. It matters. And I think that's the only email I have.
Thank you. And with that, also a reminder that we did fly the Pride flag, and it is still flying. So with that, then we move on to the approval of the consent calendar.
Mayor Ortiz, we do have a hand up from Sonia.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We did have one of the commissioners from the San Mateo LGBTQ Commission, Crystal Cancino, here, who was going to accept the proclamation.
Oh, very good. I'm sorry. So would you like to say any words? And if not, then you just have been, Ms. Cancino, would you care to say it?
Oh, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Can everybody hear me? Oh, perfect. First off, I just really want to say thank you so much again from the commission, from being somebody who's part of the LGBTQ community. And I just want to note that, Burlingame has been, all of you have been so accepting and inviting. And even when it's not Pride Month, I know Councilmember Colson, Councilmember Beach, all of you have been really extending a great hand out to the rest of the commission and just the community at large. So I really appreciate that, really, really, really from the bottom of my heart. It's really nice that we can be recognized and be included in things because we're just people like everybody else. But I did want to read something. It's not my words, it's words that I've borrowed. But I think it is very moving and really does express how a lot of us feel. And I'm going to read that. So again, first off, thank you so much for the proclamation, for flying the flag and just participating, accepting the invitation. And I know we didn't even have to send the invitation because you guys had already planned it. So I definitely appreciate that. But I'll go ahead and read this. We're not born with pride. We're not born knowing where our life will lead. The obstacles we'll face, the joy we'll find, the heartbreaks we'll feel. We're not born knowing these milestones are also stepping stones in helping us find our footing in what we stand for and who will stand by. In searching for the words that help us find our voice, to be heard, to be seen, to belong, accepted for how we live, respected for who we love, and that what we overcome gives power and shape to what we become. We're not born with pride, we take pride in celebrating who we were born to be. So again, thank you so much. I really appreciate all of you, council members, Mayor Ortiz, Vice Mayor. I think somebody had mentioned the HR and city manager just for planning this and really going above and beyond to invite us and to help us feel welcomed.
Thank you for your comments. And I think you make a really good point. It's not all about the month of June. It's about how we live every single day of every day of the year and how we treat people. So thank you for that reminder. And thank you for calling out my colleagues who have been there. So, okay, with that, we move on to the approval of the consent calendar. So back to my colleagues, is there any item that you wish to pull? Councilmember Coulson.
Thank you. I just wanted to pull item J, which I believe is the allocations for community organizations and funding. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's it.
Very good. Colleagues, anybody else? And then we'll open it for members of the public to see if anybody cared to pull any of the items. And I believe we had an email. Was there an email that was pulling one of the items?
Not that I see. Lisa, do you have a?
No, then
I don't have anything.
it must have not been related. Okay, so I had the wrong impression. So with that, I will bring it back to colleagues. If so, we'll entertain a motion to approve. So that would make it items A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, K, L, M.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second, Beach.
Second.
So I have a motion by Vice Mayor Brownrigg, second by Councilmember Beach. Roll call, please, Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember O'Brien?
Aye.
Councilmember Beach?
Yes.
Councilmember Coulson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brownrigg?
Yes.
Mayor Ortiz?
Yes. Thank you. And then with that, we will bring it back up to item, I believe, 8J, the adoption of the resolution approving the allocation of funding for community service organizations for fiscal year 2022-23. And I'm not sure who was going to present that.
Me.
Okay.
Me. So really quick, I love everything, everyone who's applied. I mean, there's a lot of great groups. We're doing a lot of good work giving out funding. But as I was going through the numbers and looking at everything, I really just felt like there's one element of concern that I have that, and I think all of us have, that, hasn't been addressed, and that's work around gun violence and gun safety. And so even though they have not applied, but I do believe the Sheriff's Department continues to do gun buybacks, and in the past had asked us if we could allocate some resources. I think the Moms Demand Action came in and asked us to support that. And I'm just wondering, as sort of a kind of a gesture to a gesture toward the sort of work that so many people in our community are doing around gun safety, if it would be possible to consider a small additional donation to something in that realm, a few $1,000s above and beyond, as a gesture of solidarity around that work and the importance of that work, just given what's going on today.
Thank you. I see Vice Mayor Brownrigg has his hand raised.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that's an excellent idea. This council has in the past done ad hoc contributions to gun buyback programs. And so if what Councilwoman Coulson is suggesting, that we sort of fund it in advance of what we believe will be a program, I'd be all in favor. I'd be in favor of I think we did 5 or 10,000 last time. I definitely would be supportive of that. Or if Councilwoman Colson meant to contribute to one of the gun gun safety advocacy groups, I'd also be willing to consider that. But I think it's an excellent suggestion in light of recent events.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I'll let Councilmember O'Brien speak first.
I would agree with that as long as the caveat is it's not used towards staff time.
Okay, so now let's talk about a little bit about, because I see Councilmember Beach nodding, so I'm assuming we're all in favor. Okay, great. So we're all in favor of doing this. So the question is, what are the mechanics? Can we just add it on? City manager, please, if you could share your.
So I just went back and checked my old emails. Last year, we got a request in July to contribute, and we gave them $5,000 in August when they came knocking. It was the gun buyback folks. So we can just, it's within my authority, so we can just handle it in the same way, which is I'll just take it out of your budget, not my budget, your budget, when that request comes. But I understand that you all are in favor of it.
Okay, good. Colleagues, is that everybody good with that? I think that makes a lot of sense. So I think that's a wonderful idea. Thank you, Councilmember Colson, for bringing it up. I think that's a great idea. And thank you, Madam City Manager, for taking it from our budget. So, okay, with that, then I will entertain a motion for item 8J.
Let's first make sure there's no public comment, Mr.
That's what I
Mayor.
was about to say. Make sure that there's no public comment regarding item 8J.
I don't have any emails and I don't see any hands up. So I think you're good to go.
Excellent, thank you. And with that, I'll bring it back to colleagues. If somebody would like to make a motion, Councilmember, Vice Mayor Brownrigg. You're muted, Michael.
I beg your pardon, Ms. Ray. I wasn't going to make a motion. I'll let Councilmember Colson, since it was her good idea, make the motion. I had a question about one of the items after we voted, so I'll just come back to that.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept item J with the city manager's discretion to allocate an additional $5,000 to $10,000 based on the county gun buyback program, so long as that funding will go toward gun purchases and not towards staff time for the event.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Colson, second by Councilmember O'Brien. Do we have roll call, please?
Sorry, I just want to, are we going to need to do another motion to approve the overall funding as well?
Yeah,
I said the overall.
Oh, okay.
I see. I see what you're saying.
So we could amend the motion to just be item 8J with the understanding of everything else that you said is a separate. So if you make your motion just for item 8J, otherwise we would have to amend it.
Okay.
So you're amending your motion to just be item 8J?
I'll amend my motion. Whatever's easiest. I'll amend the motion.
Perfect.
And I'll agree to that as a second.
Very good. So with that, roll call.
Councilmember O'Brien,
Yes.
Councilmember Beach,
Yes.
Councilmember Colson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brownrigg,
Yes.
Mayor Ortiz.
Yes. Thank you all. With that, we'll move on to item number 9A, which is a public hearing to renew the levy and collection of assessment for the downtown Burlingame Avenue Streetscape Improvement Project for fiscal year 2022 to 23.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I had a question about one of the consent items. I just wanted to get through the vote. And that happens to be, it's really addressed to the city manager, probably, the letter with respect to the Michelson pool. How do we plan to publish that? And forgive me if that was in the report, but I forget what it said.
So the report was just having a resolution.
Right.
So you adopted a resolution in support. I will send that resolution to Lindsay Rake, who's with the organization. She's the one who spoke to you at the the last two council meetings. And so they have a change.org petition that they are updating as cities join in and pass the resolutions. And then separately, I will send the resolution with a cover letter saying that the council did this and send it to James Conforti. And I see Lindsay's also here on the meeting. Just raised her hand.
Forgive me, is Mr. Conforti, is he with Sutter Health? Is that it?
He is the interim president, chief executive officer of Sutter Health.
Can we, thank you for that. Can we copy that letter also to Supervisor Pine?
Sure.
Thank you.
The Board of Supervisors already passed a resolution.
Right, but I'd be happy for him to understand that his constituents see it the same way.
Sure.
Very good. Okay, so we ready to move on to item number 9A? And
So Mayor Ortiz, Lindsay is on the line and she's got her hand up, even though.
Oh,
we
I'd love to hear
passed
from
it,
her. Yes,
but-
please.
Hi there. I'm so glad you brought this up. I was having a Wi-Fi issue and I logged in right after you voted. So it sounds like you approved it, I take it. And
Yes.
I am just here I'll keep it short and sweet. I just want to thank you very much for your support. And I realize this is not the item that we're actually on. So thank you for listening to me. And tonight is actually the 1-year anniversary of the day I launched the petition on change.org. So this is a time where I've been reflecting quite a bit, and it just is so meaningful to me that you passed this today. And I just feel I and everyone in our advocacy group, all the former users, we just feel very heard. And I was born and raised in Burlingame. Went through the entire Burlingame school district. So, I feel an affinity to Burlingame, and I just really appreciate your support. So yes, if you could send it to James Conforti, if you could also send it to the corporate board of Sutter. I didn't mention that last time, but that would be very helpful. If you do have a cover letter you're planning to send, it would be wonderful if you could also mention the other resolutions that have been passed. We recently launched a website. They're all on our community support page. That would be the County Board of Supervisors, City of Millbrae, City of San Mateo, Sequoia Healthcare District. So you are now the 5th governmental body to pass a resolution. We hope this will start the wave. And if you wanted to mention, that there's all of these other resolutions that have been passed as well, that would be incredibly helpful.
So Lindsay, you and I can email each other tomorrow.
Sure.
You have addresses that I don't have, presumably. So we'll be in touch tomorrow.
I'm happy to help in any way. Thank you so much.
Great, and thank you for your advocacy. I think that you keep pushing and we are listening. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So,
thank you so much.
very good. Okay, now let me try this one more time. Now moving on to item number 9A. Public hearing to, I guess that's Mr. Mertuzza.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, Council. This is a routine annual business item that we bring to you for renewing the levy and collection of assessments for the downtown Burlingame Avenue streetscape improvement that was done originally passed by the downtown business property owners in 2012. And since then, we have been renewing it on an annual basis. And it says procedural item, as I mentioned, just a brief background. In 2012, the City Council initiated proceedings to form a downtown assessment district, and proceedings were conducted under the provisions of Landscaping and Lighting Act of 1972. And there was no majority protest as part of the ballot, and that process allowed the City Council to order improvements and levy assessments totaling $335,787 for 30 years on an annual basis. And that helped pay for the downtown streetscape improvements through the issuance of bonds, in addition to funds from the utilities, water and sewer utilities. The engineer's report is annually updated to reflect any changes. This time, this year, there are no changes to the assessments. The engineer's report is attached. The total annual assessment after prepayment by some property owners is $310,156. And you're requested to hold a public hearing and approve the assessments. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mertuzza. Colleagues, any questions of our Public Works Director? Having none, and again, this is a routine item that we do every year, but I'd like to just say this is a great model for the way we're going to do things in the future. So I appreciate my colleagues who were on the council at the time. That was very forward-looking. With that, let's open it to public comment.
I don't have any emails, and I don't see anyone with their hand up.
Very good. So with that, I'll come back to colleagues for final comments or for a resolution, for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to renew the levy and collection assessments for the downtown Burlingame streetscape improvements for the fiscal year 2022-23.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Beach, a second by Vice Mayor Brownrigg. Roll call, please.
Councilmember O'Brien,
Yes.
Councilmember Beach,
Yes.
Councilmember Coulson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brownrigg,
Yes.
Mayor Ortiz.
Yes. Thank you for that. With that, we'll move on to item number 9B, which is a public hearing and adoption of resolutions. 1, adopting the fiscal year 2022-23 operating capital budgets and authorizing the finance director to assign uses of funds balance accounts, and 2, approving the GAN appropriation limit, and 3, approving the contribution to the city's pension benefit trust account with PARS. Okay, and that scared me. I thought I lost you guys. So with that, we'll pass it on to there's our finance director, Ms. Ellen Scott. You.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Council member. Thank you for this opportunity to present a proposed budget for fiscal year 22-23 for tonight public hearing. Here's the agenda for tonight. We will talk about some of the highlight for this round of budget development. I will also show you the changes since our May 11 study session. We will also include a budget summary for you to show you where the citywide and general fund as well as capital improvement program. And we also updated the 5-year forecasting we present to you since the May 11 study session. We will also have time for questions towards the end of this meeting. And then finally, we will ask council to take action on 3 separate resolutions after public hearing. Here's some highlight, for development fiscal year 22-23 budget. We are expecting moderate revenue growth with the property tax and the sales tax meeting or exceeding our expectation in current fiscal year. However, the TOT tax is still lacking. For our budget also calls for spending exceed the revenue by about $3.9 million, which is going to show up as a draw from city general fund unassigned fund balance, in addition to $1.25 million contribution towards our 115 pension trust. We are going to continue relying on the reserve. The capital improvement reserve have been totally earmarked for grid separation and the El Camino Real utility underground project. We have $21 million balance for the capital improvement reserve. This budget development is also continue focus on short term, and the priority is to preserve the workforce and maintain excellent service to our resident. So even though the City Council did not direct any changes to the budget at the May 11 study session, however, the budget presented to you tonight include a $700,000 property tax revenue after we had a meeting at May 20th, heard from the county for their projections. Our excess ERA funding will, doing better than we originally projected, $2.5 million. On May 16th, the council meeting, the City Council also approved a Park and the Recreation Department personnel change request, which is result about a $25,000 increase to general fund balance. With those kind of information, staff also update the 5-year general fund forecasting to reflect those changes, as well as look at the 5-year, the CIP out-year plan to make some modification to smooth the impact to general fund. The next few slides will provide you a high-level summary for the budget documentation. So let's start with the proposed citywide budget. The proposed citywide budget is about $129 million, which is $11.4 million more than last year's adopted budget. The change are nearly $3.8 million for general fund and more than $6.5 million for capital improvement budget. The $1.1 million for water and the sewer fund as well. This included a $25,000 increase for general fund personnel cost changes. No changes to all other funds, only changes general fund for the $25,000 adjustment. As indicated in this pie chart, the majority expenditure, $7.6 million, almost 52% are attributed to the general fund, which is a fund for the city's main operation. Now let's look at the city general fund operating fund. The top, the revenue side, the top three revenue is about, for example, property tax is 40%, sales tax 24.23, and TOT tax about 18%. Is made up almost 83% of general fund revenue for this three major fund. Pre-COVID fiscal year 18-19, the general fund revenue is about 84 million. So we are say about 14 million decrease from the high time. However, we are getting closer to our 1920 level. We are only about $1.5 million shy from the 1920 fund. This slide highlights city biggest three revenue sources. You can see the blue bar for the property tax. We start with 20.3 million in 17-18. Now we expect 28.3 million for 22-23. And then for sales tax, we are, see a drop from 17.8 million in 18-19 to 14.8 million to 19-20. However, for next 3 years is say continual growth for the sales tax. We're doing better than we projected, anticipated. So, however, for TOT tax, we are, been talking so many times. We are say significant drop. 2021, we only collect 5.7. Current year budget, we have 10 million. As yesterday, I got the data from our April, we actually doing much better. April, our transaction is 1.3 million. If we keep up this trend, we'll probably very likely we're going to exceed our projection 10 million. For next year, we are budget for 13 million. So for other part of revenue, pretty much stable, not huge changes there. As we try to contain the cost, the general fund expenditure for next budget year up to $2.6 million, or 2.6%, sorry, or about $1.7 million compared with the current year revised budget. The budget will be support 225 FTE. We have no changes to FTE from current fiscal year carry into the next fiscal year. Out of this $1.7 million increase, 1.4 million actually attribute to public safety cost. 1 million was adjusted for fire service contract. So, if you look at the city, other service pretty much stable or almost remain the same level. For the personnel cost expenditure alone is about a citywide 2.6% overall increase. We did build in 2% COLA increase for all the represented group or non-represented group for salary increase. But due to the, we have some new employees started at lower step, and then the actual true increase is less than 2%. So this is proposed contribution to the pension trust account. General fund going to contribute $1.25 million. The citywide is almost close to 1.6 million. The balance in the trust account as we finish first quarter in 2022 is about $20 million in the trust account. We talk about the revenue, we talk about expenditure, we talk about trust. So in summary, the general fund $70.6 million going to support for $67.6 million expenditure, operating expenditure. We are continual fund capital improvement about $5.2 million. And our debt service obligation pretty, flat is 3.6. And we also receive some recovery from other funds. The operating deficit for general fund about $3.9 million before we contributed $1.2 million to the pension trust. So by the end of the day, we are going to draw, we have $5.16 million deficit. We're going to draw using our unassigned fund balance to cover this. Again, for city's top priority during this downturn is able to provide day-to-day operation and to fund necessary capital improvement. We are anticipating continued deficit spending in upcoming fiscal year in the next few years. You will see my future slide present for the 5-year forecasting. Here again, you can see how the fund balance changes the city reserve. So even though the general fund expected to run about $3.9 million deficit, the unassigned balance, which is almost more than $500,000 is a discretionary reserve for the city can use when they deal with unexpected things happening, we might need to use funding to fund those kind of projects. So our project estimate ending fund balance for fiscal year 22-23 about $38.9 million. Beside the city general fund reserve, the city also has $21.2 million in capital investment reserve. However, like I mentioned earlier, the reserve already earmarked for the two projects. One is a grade separation for city matching, about 15 million. And then the other one is we continue to put this money aside for the utility underground project. The city not able to contribute this reserve for the capital improvement for last 2 years. And then we're not seeing those kind of reserve happening probably next few years as well. It's really dependent how the economy recover, how that doing. So this slide showing the total capital improvement project budget, about $21.9 million for upcoming fiscal year. The top 3 project area almost made up 78% of CIP budget. They're 37% for street related project, and followed by almost 23% for water project. We also have 18% for park and trees. Out of this $21.9 million, nearly a quarter funding is $5.2 million is from the general fund, mainly for street and park related project. The $2.6 million is for street, which is $2 million come out from Measure I, which is part of general fund, $600 for other street related project. And also this year we have $2.6 million committed for the park related project. To maintain the city's essential service and reserve staff as much as possible, the city have been held back for contribution for CIP program. So general fund contribution has dropped significantly from $7, $10, $11 million to last couple of years about average 3.2 million. So for this year, we have this up 5.19, which is we have this additional funding needed for 1.3 million obligation city committed for the pool deck replacement project. After the study session, if you look at this number for the next few years, it changed a little bit from the May 11 staff report. We did try to smooth the impact to general fund, move a couple projects around, so in each year, the impact to general fund kind of average out. So next few years, we are going to ramping up the need for capital need. For fiscal year 24-25, 25-26 is almost more than $20 million funding needed for CIP project. For 24-25 this year, we have 2.2 million committed for Town Square project and 2 million for utility underground project. We requested additional funding to set aside. We also, next couple of years, we also have another additional $2 million for utility ground project. We also have 2.6 million for park related project set aside. The couple million project for the park is 1.3 million coming to for Bayside LED field lighting and 2.3 for current sorry, my pronunciation, field renovation project as well. So. Based on the general fund 5-year forecasting, we can see the general fund revenue kind of steadily recover. However, with increasing need for the capital, you can see I did put it in red, increase also significantly. So that will certainly put a pressure on general fund balance. City will continue to dip in the reserve in order to fund operation and the capital need. So next few years, you will see the surplus, continues. So back to fiscal year 18-19, the city assigned and unassigned fund balance was nearly 41 million. What's the assigned and unassigned fund balance? Assigned pretty much is for our economic stability reserve and contingency reserve as well as catastrophic reserve. And then unassigned fund balance, which is discretionary funding the council can use for some, maybe put aside for capital improvement or put a trust fund for the pension or OPEB, those kind of things, council have discretion to make decision on. So at that time, it's about $41 million. So we are slowly draw down fund balance. When you say, when we get to 23, 24, this dollar amount dropped to close to $17 million. So at that year, actually, if you look at our economic stability reserve, we should base on a calculation of percentage, 24% of our revenue. That number actually $18.5 million. What that means a draw from either reserve or other funding is needed. However, the city, the way we develop our budget, we always expect about around 2 million or 2.5 million savings at year end. Therefore, we're really hoping we're able to make, we don't need a draw to make this draw at that time. However, as time goes on, the capital improvement need is getting bigger. We will not able to sustain unless we draw down reserve further or utilize other sources. What's other sources option? We can start using our pension trust, or we can use our OPEB trust, or we might able to delay some certain project. We maybe free some funding for certain operation or project. We really need to bring different options to in front of council to make a decision at that time. Clearly, the city's running day fund are limited. We can now assume we continue draw heavily on the reserve. So therefore, what happened in the next 12 months is very crucial. We will determine what's the future step we will be taking. Staff will be monitoring our revenue and expenditure very closely. If in case we are not able to meet our revenue target, then we have issues. Or if we spend excessively than our budget original request for expenditure, then we have problem. We will need to come back to council to, provide some options how we deal with this kind of situation. But those kind of 24, 25, up the year, out years as far are still out there. So right now we just look at the current year, fiscal year 22-23, we are anticipating about a little bit more than $500,000 unassigned fund balance. We will certainly report back to council throughout the fiscal year, probably can, if anything need an urgent deal with, we probably talk about it at the middle year or, or sooner. So that's general fund balance assignment for next 5 years outlook. So that's come to the end of my presentation. Before I conclude presentation, I do want to thank our finance service manager, Oscar Herrera, for working on the budget with me this year, and Andrew Kwaka for administration for the community funding program, and the entire finance team. Without their support, I could not get it done. I also want to thank all the department head for their timely proposal, and many other team leaders, staff for their input and contribution to this process. My sincere appreciation go to City Manager Lisa Goldman for her guidance and her unique talent to make the narrative flow just so much better. The budget presented to you today is indeed a result of collaboration and teamwork. Last but not least, we appreciate all the council meetings leadership, pay close attention to the physical matters, and at the same time, you care for us, which make our job so meaningful. With that, I'm here to answer any question you may have.
Let's try with the mute button on. Thank you very much, Director Scott. I appreciate the presentation. And colleagues, I'm going to open it up for questions. Councilman or Vice Mayor Brownrigg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll kick it off. I have just a couple of comments. I don't really have any questions. First of all, Director,
could we hold off on the comments for after the public comments? So let's just have questions now, and then
sure,
we'll
no problem.
the comments. So sorry to interrupt you, but Councilmember O'Brien.
Yes, I just have one quick question. I know we have put aside $15 million for the grade separation. Do you think that will be the maximum we'll need, or do you think that may change?
So I will defer this question to Public Work Director Said.
Hi, thank you, Helen. Yeah, at this time, the $15 million is our best estimate. Obviously, the more you have, the better it is for the project. If the city is able to either locally, regionally, or other means outside of federal funding can have more money, it is better for the project. But $15 million is what we know at this time is to be the best case for city contribution that is based on the other cities that have funded projects previously in the county. But obviously more is better.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't want to be too conservative on that number because I mean, that's a project we've been working on for quite some time and hopefully we'll get the money that we're expecting. But I hope, futuristically, there's a little more flexibility that we keep that, in the back of our heads that we may have to put more into that pot.
Very good point.
Thank you.
Very good point. So Councilmember Colson.
Thank you. So this is to Director Scott. Wonderful presentation. Thank you very much. But just you or maybe Lisa, do you guys have a sense of how we're kind of faring compared to other cities in terms of have we had to, staffing, layoffs, overall fiscal health reserves? I've looked at a few other cities outside San Mateo County and we seem to be doing better, but I just don't know.
It's a real mix. We are probably one of the only cities around here that didn't lay off full-time staff during the pandemic, which I think was really important for us. The people who work for the organization are the reason we're able to get things done in the organization, the way we're able to serve our community. And I've been through layoffs in 2 other jurisdictions, and they're really awful. They're terrible for the people who leave, and they're really terrible for the morale of the people who remain. And it takes a long time for an organization to recover from something like that. So it was really important to me to do the best that we could to retain our full-time staff. We did lay off part-timers early on because we weren't offering the programs that the part-timers supported. The rec center was for the most part closed. The library was closed for quite some time. So we weren't having all the hours at the library. But a lot of cities did layoffs early on. Cities that are less reliant on economically sensitive revenues like transient occupancy tax are now doing better than we're doing, I think. I've been, reading just whatever the local papers are showing about how other cities are doing. And, we're still playing catch up with our TOT, and cities that are really property tax based cities are doing fine because property tax, and our property tax is great. But, we went from about 29 million to about 5.7 million in TOT over the course of approximately a year. And that is a huge blow. And then we're just, as Helen showed you, we're climbing back out of that hole, but it's going to take a while. So the cities that are really just property tax cities are going to do better in this kind of an environment. But 3 years ago, we were saying, woohoo, look at us. We have all the money in the world because we have these great hotels. So those will come back over time. And we're also diversifying our revenue. We have, different types of developments going in on the Bayfront, which will bring different types of revenues to us that are not, as reliant on tourism and business travel.
Thank you for that. I do have a question. Could I go back to, you mentioned the 700,000 additional property tax, and but I'm curious, is that impacting the current fiscal year, or is that just projecting for the future?
That's project for the future year. This current year, we actually received $3.2 million excess ERAF. So historically, we've been very conservative because that kind of revenue source, a lot of time the county tell us can be one time, and then the state can take away. So we have been budget very conservatively. We're using 2.5 million as holding place to budget. So after, recently, I guess this trailer bill to the state, we did have a meeting with the county. Even though the trailer bill just say if they go through, and then guarantee the city still have $3.2 million as cap. So with that, we are comfortable to adjust revenue up to at least for our cap dollar amount. Luckily, I did not need to do a big presentation for the trailer bill. It's get killed at state level. However, it now means everything clear. Later on, things happening, state try to different way to take away different revenue sources. That can happen too. So at least for now, we are comfortable for the $3.2 million for this excess ERAF property tax revenue.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Colleagues, any other questions before we open it to the public? And having no hands raised, then we will go ahead and open it for public comment.
I have a hand up from Sandra Lang.
Welcome, Ms. Lang.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Ortiz and honorable council members. And this was quite a learning exercise for me to hear this tonight. My question, and I'm actually wondering, and I think you can help me understand this a little bit better, in the disaster and emergency or preparedness category, is there any flexibility that in the relationship to the contingency, catastrophic contingency reserve, is that catastrophic contingency reserve, will that allow, excuse me, money to, hopefully we don't have a disaster, but is there some flexibility in increasing and supporting the disaster amount? And I was trying to follow this, watching it as you presented it. And so I just need to understand that because, when we look at reserves, and maybe I'm mistaken, I don't know, I would wonder what the priorities for drawing on the reserves would be in any disaster.
So I can give first try to answer your question. So based on the city policy, for all this 3 different category fund balance is called assigned fund balance, which is a council has discretionary to assign this money to go. At any time, if we need to use this funding, we will just come back to council, get it different directions. For example, our economic stability reserve is 20% for revenue. If eventually, next few years, we really need a funding draw, probably we going to take money from this fund balance first. Because if you look at the contingency or the catastrophic fund balance is only $2.5 million. It's not much to deal with. For our economic stability fund balance is about 16 million or $17 million. That's the dollar amount we can use. And besides for assigned fund balance, we have unassigned fund balance for upcoming fiscal year, about close to $600,000 in there. And we also have restrict fund balance, which means only restrict for certain purpose. One of our pension trust account, about $18 million, or now as March will grow to $20 million. That money can be used, even though we cannot really pay for our salaries, etc., to keep operation. However, we can use it, draw down this fund, pay our pension need, our either normal cost, our pension liability, or unfunded pension liability. We can have some flexibility using those different funding to deal with the situation. I'm hoping this answers your question.
Thank you, Director Scott, and thank you, Ms. Lang, for your comment. Do we have any other public comment?
I don't have any emails and I don't see any hand up.
Very good. Then I will bring it back to colleagues. I'll bring it first to the Vice Mayor who has some comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Director Scott, for your work. At some level, the very first job we all have to do is to make sure we have the resources to run the city in the way that our residents and constituents want it to be run. So the services, the safety, the fire department, the tree trimming, and I think this council has done a remarkable job, and the city manager, in making sure we do have those resources. I want to build on the comments that the city manager made. We took a tremendous hit in terms of our revenue. We actually have had a hit like that before. And in fact, the council was guided by that observation that it was very much like 9/11, which hit the hospitality industry especially hard. And we built our plans as the pandemic began to unfold based on those forecasts of just how badly it could be hit. So I'm proud of that. There was time over the last several years or many years, and certainly Council Member O'Brien and remembers this, that we were accused of saving too much money, that we had all this extra money and we should be spending it. And this council was very conservative in making sure we put money away while we were still investing, but we were also saving. And that saving is why we now are in the position that we didn't have to lay people off and we could maintain all those services. So again, I'm proud of that and proud of being conservative in the way we budget so that we can weather these things. I also raise this because to the city manager's point, we are looking to diversify revenue. And there will be residents and constituents who get very upset when they see the size of some of the buildings on the Bayside and some of the development that's occurring. And what everyone needs to remember is that is one way of diversifying revenue. That builds out our property tax base, and that is, as the city manager says, the gift that keeps on giving. I do think hotel revenue will come back more quickly. At least I hope so. I certainly am traveling enough at this point in my life to say, like, okay, I think business travel is coming back faster than I thought. But I'm glad again that Director Scott, that you're budgeting conservatively for that revenue growth. So, mostly I realize this sounds a little like a pat on the back, but this is the biggest job I think we have. And I think we've all done a pretty good job at it. I'll end on one sort of cautionary note, which is, and I said this when by the way, for any member of the public listening, this is the umpteenth hour we've spent thinking about this. This is not the only session we've had on the budget. But one, I think, place where we're not as conservative is thinking about our cost structure in the out years, where we still assume 3% wage and salary growth. And I think that's probably not conservative. I think at this point, what I see happening out in the economy and in a lot of different companies with which I work, that's not a realistic salary expectation in the out years. So we can talk about that in the next cycle and look at that. But that's just one little area for us to keep in mind. But mostly I just wanted to kind of pat us on the back and applaud the city manager for putting us in this position to be able to maintain Burlingame with the same high quality services that everybody has come to expect. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. And you can keep applauding us all you want. I'll take it. Councilmember Beach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do echo Vice Mayor Brownrigg's comments. I think we've navigated together a very tough situation quite well, and we'll continue to watch carefully. I want to appreciate Director Scott's presentation tonight. Again, summary from multiple meetings that we've talked about the budget, but I really did appreciate the unassigned fund balance slide. I think that was a great visual to really drive home how important the next year or so of revenues are to really watch to see where things get a little bit dangerous a year or two from now. And that was a very helpful slide for the public and for those of us on council. So thank you for that. And to Councilmember O'Brien's very shrewd comment on the grade separation project and our capital improvement reserve. So glad we were able to squirrel away money in our piggy bank to have those reserves. In terms of the grade separation project, I do totally concur with Director Murtuza that as we're looking at projects, from the Transportation Authority and having some visibility on those funding grants, that $15 million is a very respectable local match that we're doing in our city. Having said that, down the road, when the project starts to go under construction, what we've seen typically at the Transportation Authority is major infrastructure projects. Sometimes they run over cost, and then that's where people have to come back to the city and the Transportation Authority and other grants if there's a difference. I think Director Murtuza and Caltrain are doing an outstanding job really trying to look at this project and budget it better than ever before, but it's always a good idea when we do have resources to put some additional funds in our capital improvement reserve in the event that that project or other major infrastructure projects need additional funds down the road when it's under construction. But I think it's great that you flagged that, Councilmember O'Brien, and that's such a critical project to get going. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Colson.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate and want to thank our senior leadership staff for continuing to invest in our people. And when I say our people, I mean our hardworking staff that through COVID has, most of our staff didn't get to take a break during COVID, especially our on the ground people and public facing people. police, fire, public works, library, community development. I mean, we are a public facing business. And with, rising costs, rising inflation, that will be our challenge in the next few years, is how to make sure that people can afford to stay and work for the city, and how we are going to be able to tackle rising costs through everything, through all of our delivery of goods. I think also Councilman Brown or Vice Mayor Brownrigg alluded to the development on the Bayfront. This is why I think and really appreciate the work our city attorney is doing on Topgolf to get that contract negotiated. That's another form of diversification of revenue. It also helps us stabilize our hotels, and is going to be a really important catalyst for getting those hotels back into the conference mode where a lot of their money is made. And I also think the downtown plaza is going to have a similar effect. The downtown town hall, I'm beginning to see more of our vacant space on the avenue and on the side streets start to look like it's getting leased. I think that Burlingame is a very safe and desirable city from which to operate a business, both retail and office. The downtown plaza is going to enhance that, and I think will help really solidify our whole Howard and our side streets, our whole downtown, and then bringing on our multifamily residential downtown. Just that whole next 12 to 18 months is going to be, really fascinating to watch the new people come in, the vibrancy it brings to the downtown. I was walking through another downtown in the North Bay the other day, and the amount of vacancies, and the street was very sad and not beautifully, flowered like ours is and landscaped. And I really realized how prescient and smart our council was a number of years ago to focus on getting Burlingame Avenue the way it is. And I think if we can continue to push that out to the side streets, Howard, and bring that all in, that's going to help us diversify and stabilize our revenue as well. And the good things we can do with that money, like paying people properly and keeping all the city services good, are going to be imperative if we want to keep the cycle. Because I think if you lose or break the cycle and it starts going down, it is a very quick road to the bottom.
Thank you. I think those are great points. I think that I have to agree. I am optimistic on the revenue side, but I am cautious and have some concerns about our rising costs. And when you talk about our great separation and the council member O'Brien's point of whether we have enough with rising costs, that's a very good question. And we really need to look at it. And I think our mid-year next year is going to be really important when we look at the costs and how we're doing, because I suspect we're going to have some adjustments. And but with that, I just remind members of the public that we have had many conversations about the budget, and this is just one of many, and this is the final one. And hopefully I get a motion from one of my colleagues.
I'll go ahead and make the motion. I think we have 3 to make. I'll start with the first, which is the adoption of the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget as presented by Director Hugh Scott.
And do we want to do one at a time? We do want to do one at a time. Okay, so that we have a motion by Councilmember Coulson. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second by Councilmember O'Brien. Let's do roll call, please.
Councilmember O'Brien,
Yes.
Councilmember Beach,
Yes.
Councilmember Coulson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brownrigg,
Yes.
Mayor Ortiz.
Yes. Okay, number 2.
I'll make a motion for the resolution of the City Council of the City of Burlingame establishing the fiscal year 2022-23 appropriation limit for the City of Burlingame.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember O'Brien and a second by Councilmember Beach. Roll call, please.
Councilmember O'Brien,
Yes.
Councilmember Beach,
Yes.
Councilmember Coulson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brownrigg,
Yes.
Yes. And number 3.
I'm happy to make a resolution approving a contribution to the public agency's post-employment benefit trust administered by PARS.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice Mayor Brownrigg. Do we have a second?
Second. Either way.
Good. We have a motion by Vice Mayor Brownrigg and a second by Mayor Ortiz. Roll call, please.
Councilmember O'Brien. Councilmember Beach.
Yes.
Councilmember Coulson.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brownrigg.
Yes.
Mayor Ortiz.
Yes, thank you. And Scott, thank you so much. That was a great presentation, and we appreciate all your thoughtful answers and your lots of hard work. So thank you with that. We will move on to item number 10A.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
can I ask Director Scott? I don't believe that good PowerPoint was part of the staff report. Was it? It wasn't in our packet, was it?
No, we can send it around.
That'd be
yeah,
awesome.
I'd love it.
And if I can just extend my thanks to Helen and her team, and Syed and Art and their team, for Helen for the budget, and Syed and Art for the capital improvement program. Everyone really did such hard work to put everything together, and we really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, now let me move on to item number 10A, which is adoption of a resolution approving changes to the compensation and benefit plan for the City of Burlingame department head and unrepresented classifications, and authorizing the city manager to execute the plan on behalf of the city. And I believe it's our Human Resources Director, Ms. Morrison.
Yes, thank you. So the department head and unrepresented compensation and benefit plan expires at the end of this calendar year. So there's been several successor MOUs that were adopted on consent tonight for units expiring at the end of this fiscal year. But as this unit includes the department heads, it couldn't be brought forward on consent. The changes presented here align with those with those of the others that were approved on consent. And the city tries to maintain equity of salary and benefit changes amongst the groups. Due to the continued economic uncertainty, the city believes it's prudent to only enter into a one-year agreement. Included are changes adopted by council over the life of the plan, some language cleanup items, and a 2% COLA increase. The fiscal impact of this is $50,600, and this amount is included in the budget that you just adopted. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, any questions for the Human Resources Director? And with that, then we will open it to public comment.
I don't see anyone with their hand raised, and I don't have any emails.
Very good. Then we will bring it back to colleagues for final comments, and if anybody would care to make a motion.
I'm happy to make a motion, Mr. Mayor, to modify the comp and benefit plan for the City of Burlingame department heads and unrepresented classifications.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor Brownrigg and a second by Councilmember Beach. Could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember O'Brien.
Yes.
Councilmember Beach.
Yes.
Councilmember Coulson.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brownrigg.
Yes.
Mayor Ortiz.
Yes. Thank you very much. And thank you, our director, for your presentation. And with that, we move on to item number 10B, which is adoption of a resolution declaring a water shortage emergency and implementing level 2 of the City of Burlingame's water shortage contingency plan. I believe it is our Director of Public Works, Mr. Mertusa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, Council. This is a joint staff report between myself and Kevin Okada, Senior Engineer, who is actually our staff liaison to BASCA and works closely with SFPC, and Jennifer Lee, our Environmental Compliance Manager. She is responsible for the public outreach process and also to make sure that we are doing proper reporting and complying with the state regulations. So essentially, I'll try to make it brief and then open up for questions. The item before you is to declare water shortage condition existence in Burlingame as well as part of the state, which is required by Chapter 15.06 of the Burlingame Municipal Code. and then adopt water use demand reduction actions consistent with state regulations, and also the level 2 actions as included in the City of Burlingame Water Shortage Contingency Plan that was approved last year. As the council is aware that we are in the third year of drought, consecutive third year, extremely low rainfall, and that is causing water problems throughout the state. Over the past year, Governor Newsom has taken a number of actions to target reduction of water use in the state. Some of those actions are listed here. On March 28th, the governor issued an executive order to the State Water Resource Board and local water agencies to enact shortage response actions. And then on May 24th, just last week, the State Water Resource Board, Control Board, adopted emergency regulation. Prior to that, they had passed draft regulations in April, which were finalized last week. And those regulations call for level 2 action plans that each of the cities have adopted based on the urban water management plan, and also includes regulation that each urban water supplier ban irrigation of turf at commercial, industrial, and institutional properties that basically for non-functional turf. The turf that is exempted from this ban is the recreation purpose, such as parks and single-family homes, and water by residents to maintain trees, and essentially trying to make use of allow certain use outdoor watering and not allow outdoor watering for spaces that are simply used for aesthetic purposes, but does not have any public use on that. In addition to that, just a reminder that City Council adopted wasteful water use restrictions last year, and those are already in place. The city is following that. That was done as part of the governor's executive order last year in July. The new order from the State Water Board is requiring the water agencies to implement level 2 shortage up to 20%, and we have level 2 plan that is included in our urban water management plan, and according to our ordinance 15.06, the City Council has to first declare water shortage condition. And I will not go into the detail of each of the level 1 and level 2, but just to highlight mostly the level 2 shortage contingency plan. Essentially, the residential and commercial landscaping be using water with the overhead sprinkler system only between the hours of evening times, essentially prohibiting the water during the daytime, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., and watering no more than 2 days per week. Bubbler system, drip system, hand watering with a shutoff valve nozzle, and other water efficient irrigation systems can be done. They're exempt from this requirement. And also prohibiting installation of single pass cooling systems that use water, essentially requiring recycling of water, and also prohibiting washing of vehicles except for the use of recycled water. This is primarily for commercial establishments. And staff will be also implementing the regulation from the state that prohibits the potable water use for non-functional turf at large commercial and industrial and institutional sites, as I mentioned before. Additionally, staff is also requesting council to authorize staff to make modifications to the state regulations as they get updated. So we follow the updated standards, and staff will be monitoring the state requirements and informing council if there are new changes that require more stringent measures that will require city council action. We will be doing the public outreach and enforcement. Primarily, it will be public outreach effort. We will be sending a lot of information through the e-news as well as mailers and conducting water conservation shops. We have done that last year, and we have done earlier this year as well. We will continue to do that. Again, this is the goal is to not issue fines. Though the city can issue that in the event that's warranted, but the most of the focus is going to be education that will actually yield more result. Similar to what was done last time we had this emergency regulation by the state, we were able to reduce the water by 25% on an average basis. So we believe we can achieve this, and most of the BOSCA agencies are also adopting these regulations, and this would be effective June 10th. Now, financially, the concern will be that there will be a lot of staff time dedicated to this effort to conduct inspections, do outreach, and respond to complaints, and staff plans to initially absorb these costs in the operating budget. And if there are changes need to be done, staff will return to council to ask for your approval for any additional authorization for the budget. Additionally, as the water consumption decreases, the revenue to the city from water service charges will also decrease, but will be partially offset by the reduction in total cost of wholesale water that we purchase from San Francisco. And also a point to be noted is that San Francisco has already announced 15.9% increase in the wholesale rates for fiscal year 22-23, which will be effective July 1st. This was to make up for the shortfall of the revenues from the reduced water consumption due to COVID-19 in the last couple of years. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. I'll pause here.
Thank you, Mr. Murtuza. Colleagues, any questions for Director? Councilmember O'Brien.
So backtracking a little bit, Director Murtuza, did you just say that Burlingame is saving about 25% in water right now?
Burlingame, prior in 2015, when we had the previous round of drought, we were required to, go to up to 20 to 25%, and we were able to save 25% water at that time. I don't know how
what
much
we are at now, though. Okay.
I don't have a number, but our consumption is. I have to get back to you. I don't have the current numbers, but we are relatively lower. But it's the entire, BOSCA region is lower, and I don't know how we measure, but I think we are lower, but definitely not 25% right now.
Okay, so whenever you get a chance, Director, that would be good information to relay to the whole council. I know at BOSCA, they were saying in general, the Bay Area is not saving as much money as they would like, especially with the initial guidelines that Governor Newsom had set. So I was just kind of curious on how we as a city has done in comparison to the other cities. My other question is, I know you're planning on doing a lot of outreach. And so I would assume that we would kind of mention this criteria of what is expected and put it in with the water bill.
Definitely, that would be one of the tools we will use. Since these regulations are effective right away, we will have to send e-news first, and then we will be following up. But this will be a long road for us looking at the water conditions. So we will be doing this on a bi-monthly water bill, as well as we may have to send other information out. So we will be using that as well.
It might be also useful to integrate this information and disseminate it at the farmers market and any other events that we have throughout Burlingame over the next couple months.
Good point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, Councilmember Colson?
Thank you. Are there Director Martuzza, are there any resources available to homeowners to help them convert their turf lawns, into, so I have two questions, to turf lawns into, more arid, environmentally eco-friendly? Do we know of any grants or are there stuff, Lisa, that we could put out there as well? Like,
we're starting to participate in the Lawn Be Gone program, which is through
Okay.
BOSCA. So we're in the process. I don't think it's all set up yet. Maybe it is, but if it's not set up, it will be soon. We're in the process of doing that. We hadn't participated in the past. So that pays you to replace your lawn with native plants or whatnot. And I don't know the exact amount you get, but it's, and it's something extra that helps people make a financial decision.
okay, that's really helpful. And then the other thing I would add on to Council Member O'Brien's comment is I think we should do immediate outreach to the realtors, or if we haven't outreached them, because one thing I've noticed, and the local developers, like when they're coming through our, planning department, it seems to me like we should, be not approve a single plan that has a turf lawn in it. And I've noticed that a bunch of new house, like for sale signs are going up and things, and first thing they do is they rip out all the grass and put brand new grass on. And then they're watering it like excessively, because new turf has to be watered like 5 times as much as regular turf to get seeded. So I've noticed in my neighborhood, a bunch of the realtors are doing that. And I think we want to make them really aware that they shouldn't be doing that.
Councilmember Colson, the current regulation from the state do not prohibit watering of the lawn during the establishment period. Again, the state with regards to a drought condition is not in an equitable condition. Northern California is generally blessed with more water than Southern California or the middle part of the state. So there's different level of water emergencies or water shortages that exist here. The board regulation currently gives cities if the cities wishes to not allow new lawns be planted, the city could actually do that, but that is a discretionary measure. It's not a mandatory requirement for the city.
So following up on that, Syed, so they're allowed to put in a new lawn, but then once it's established, it has to be watered once a week or something?
Twice a week. Twice.
It's only allowed. Okay. For residential. So if it's a commercial or it's a is it apartment building considered residential, or how does that work?
So again, it's called basically residential is exempted. Commercial and industrial, anything outside of residential, say if it's an apartment building, it's exempted. We could just say multifamily residential. However, if it's a commercial or industrial institutional, if it's not for public use, such as it's not like typical to park use, then it is prohibited.
Okay. Okay, so thank you very much, and I'll comment on that when we comment. That was more a question. I'll comment later.
Very good. Thank you very much. And any other questions, colleagues? We'll come back to comments later. I don't see any hands raised. So with that, we'll bring it to public comment. Madam City Clerk.
I don't see any hands up. And let me check emails. I don't see any public comment emails either.
Very good. I see a black cat. So with that, back to colleagues. Any final comments before we make a motion? Councilmember Colson, did you have some final thoughts you wanted to share?
Yeah. So I don't know if it's for consumption here or not, but I actually do think we should really try to figure out a way to, I just can't stand to see these new houses being built, all this lawn being put in, and then just watering and watering and watering. I don't know if people don't know, don't understand, whatever, but it's sort of like it's almost like the die out ordinance on the reach codes with gas. It's kind of like this is not, you're redoing the house, you're renovating the house, or, you know, whatever's going on. It seems to me like it would be a really smart thing for us as a city to consider somehow saying, like, there's no going back. Like
Sounds like a future agenda item.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it is, but
Sticks and
yeah,
carrots to discourage new lawns. Sounds like a good one.
Yeah, there's so many, our lawns, our yards are so beautiful that don't have lawn. The ones that don't have lawns, we could just really do a good initiative, I think, to help. Lawns the lazy way. It's like they just lay it in, and then everybody ends up ripping it out anyway and putting in water friendly. The new owners often do that. So I think let's think about that for the future.
Colleagues, anyone else have any final comments, or would anybody like to make a motion to approve the resolution?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
So we have a motion by Councilmember Beach. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Madam City Clerk, did I do something wrong? I see you all of a sudden appear.
No, I'm just kidding.
Not this time.
Roll
Okay.
call.
Very good. I'm sorry. Who was the second? Was that Councilmember O'Brien?
Mm-hmm.
Very good. So we have a motion by Councilmember Beach, a second by Councilmember O'Brien, and I didn't do anything wrong. So Madam City Clerk, you could do the roll call.
Oh, but
Oh,
City Manager Goldman now has our
No,
hand.
no, sorry. Hit the wrong button. Sorry. Go ahead.
okay, fine.
Councilmember O'Brien,
Yes.
Councilmember Beach,
Yes.
Councilmember Colson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brownray,
Yes.
Mayor Ortiz.
Yes. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Martusa, for your presentation. And with that, we move on to item number 11, which is council committees and activities, reports and announcements. Colleagues, anybody have anything to share with the rest of the class? And I don't see any hands raised. So with that, I will bring it back to item number 12, future agenda items. Councilmember Colson, do you have any ideas?
I do. I would love to bring back for future agenda a look at our regulations regarding the installation of new turf and possibly figuring out additional incentive programs, or how to market incentive programs to convert over to more drought tolerant, eco-friendly yards.
I would second that. I would say we need to find a combination of sticks and carrots to get people to replace their lawns with low water usage plants. So I will back you up on that one. So any other future agenda items, colleagues? Having none, then we will move on to acknowledgements. We have the agenda packets for meeting minutes for the Planning Commission, Traffic Safety, Parking Commission, Beautification Commission, Parks and Recreation Commission, and the Library Board of Trustees are available at www.burlingame.org. And now for adjournment, colleagues, does anybody have anybody who we would like to adjourn in their memory? And having none, then we will just move on to adjournment. And good evening and thank you, everybody, and good night. We are adjourned.